पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपो हरतु मे पापम् सन्ध्यादीपनमोऽस्तुते ओ दीपब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां प्रभुरव्ययः ओ दीपब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां प्रभुरव्ययः आरोग्यं देहि पुत्रांश्च मतिं स्वच्छामि मे सदा रवेरस्तं समारभ्य यावत् सूर्योदयो भवेत् रवेरस्तं समारभ्य यावत् सूर्योदयो भवेत् यस्य तिष्ठे गृहे दीपः तस्य नास्ति दरिद्रता शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
Thank you very much for joining in to the prayer. And this is Miss Khyati Dwarkadas welcoming you to the CTET Goodwill batch. And we are heading into CTET exam 2025. Let me welcome each one of you participants who've joined us this evening. And let us begin with our preparations. Just allow me to share my screen. Just allow me to share my screen and we shall just begin. A very, very warm welcome. Welcome, Suraya ma'am. And we've just begun with our introductions. So when we look at our preparations into CTET 2025, we are going to first begin with how to go about preparing ourselves for this big exam. Hence, we're first going to start seeing with the exam pattern. Now, the exam pattern, as we all know, is 150 marks in all. And for these 150 marks, we get exactly 150 minutes, which is 2.5 hours. The mode of the exam, as we can all see, is an OMR sheet or an offline exam, as we would like to call it. Just a minute, I can see one participant sending a message. So, yes, I just mentioned that to her. I just mentioned. Surya ma'am, I'm not able to hear you, but I just mentioned to this participant.
Oh yeah. I'm in the train, so it may be a little unclear. I'm in the train traveling still.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you go on, ma'am. I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. So the mode of the exam is definitely an OMR sheet. And eventually we will cover on how to attempt the OMR sheet. And this exam is definitely an offline exam. So we have to learn to time ourselves, which of course we will be practicing in the course of time with daily practice on the group as well as with practice sessions here in the live classes. Since there is no negative marking at all, one needs to prepare in such a way that you are able to attempt the entire paper. Look at this. It is 150 marks and 150 minutes. So I'd like to show it to you here. This is your 150 marks and this is the 150 minutes. That means 1 minute for every mark that you write. That's the way it is going to go. And since you are darkening circles only, one has to be very, very clear and very, very careful that you don't darken outside the circles. Okay. Somebody is sending message after message, but let us not get disturbed and let us continue with the session. So we are having a predefined syllabus, as we can see. This person seems to be having a meeting error. Okay. So we have a predefined syllabus and we shall even be discussing our predefined syllabus. So let's look at it. We all know there's paper 1 and paper 2, and I will talk a little about paper 1 because we have some people here from paper 1 amidst us who are here with us to do everything else except math and EVS. So there is CDP, which is Child Development and Pedagogy of 30 marks, both in paper 1 and paper 2. The only difference here is, though the content for both remains the same, the age group level differs in paper 1 and in paper 2. So since paper 2 starts from grade 6, we have the age group level of 11 to 14 years in paper 2. So child development and pedagogy would majorly be covering those topics of age group of 11 to 14 years. However, in paper 1, you have all age groups up to 10 or 11 years being covered under child development and pedagogy. Now, when you look at language 1, so once again, we can see that paper 1 has language 1. Paper 1 has language 1 here of 30 marks. I think there is a problem in its annotation. 1. This is your language 1 here, and paper 2 also has language 1 of 30 marks. From these 30 marks, 15 marks will be the language with basic grammar, and 15 marks will be the pedagogy of the language. Now, in this case, we are going to make sure that how we deal with the language and the pedagogy. In our case here, English will be done as language 1. However, we can cover it as language 2 as well, because language 1 and language 2 now both come as translations in the first language. So if you're choosing English and Hindi or Hindi and English, the paper becomes a bit simpler. Same thing we can say here for language 2. Language 2, whether you choose English, Hindi or any other language, in both cases, language 2 is also of 30 marks, which is 15 marks of the language and 15 marks of pedagogy. Since we are going to be covering social science in language as the main subject, since our main subject is going to be social science, we are going to have social science of 60 marks. This will have 40 marks of the subject and 20 marks of pedagogy, right? So the language is going to be 30 marks, language 1, 30 marks, language 2, child development and pedagogy, 30 marks. That makes 90 marks. And 60 marks of the paper will be social science. And we are going to be focusing on social science because I realized that many people have been saying we lost marks in social science. But as you can see, both papers total to 150 marks and they are done in 150 minutes. So we'll have to be a little more careful when we are answering the question paper. Okay. So let's proceed to the next topic. Now, while we are seeing the exam pattern, we have only two things to look at: syllabus and previous year's questions. Syllabus and previous year's questions. Previous year's questions, we do not ask you to go into too many details. I think 2018 onwards, 2018, 2019, which were the online batches, you get a lot more examples of current pattern. And syllabus, of course, we will need to check. We need to keep in mind that the paper is now going to focus on competency-based questions. So it's not just rote learning. We are now going to be focusing on exactly how to apply the concepts that we have learned. Now, let us take a quick look at the syllabus. Now, the syllabus is very clearly showing us in section 1, we have child development for 15 marks. And what are the topics we are covering in child development? Concept of development and its relationship with learning. Please don't mind the Hindi coming in between in bits and parts because the paper, as you know, CTET paper comes for 150 marks in a bilingual form. So you will always have an English and a Hindi coming in between the paper. So the first topic under child development is concept of development and its relationship with learning. Then you do about the principles of development, heredity and environment, the process of socialization, the concept of development and learning sometimes comes for a 1 odd mark. Principles of development, definitely 1 or 2 principles get questioned. The role of heredity and environment is always questioned. These days, they have started adding on the word maturation in the questions. But with heredity and environment, they automatically seem to be including heredity, environment, and maturation. The process of socialization is also in question. Not directly, like I told you, competency-based questions have now taken forefront. We also have a very strong stress on the theories of Piaget, Vygotsky, and Kohlberg. And we will be studying them in detail. Child-centered and progressive education is the key to answer most difficult questions. Whenever you do not understand a question, or whenever you have a doubt in the options, the closest correct option will be where a child is active, where a child is progressive, where the child is learning. So we need to keep these things in mind. Then there is a concept of intelligence. So we have intelligence as a concept and we have multidimensional intelligence. So the theory of multiple intelligences of Howard Gardner and the basic concept of intelligence, which we've been learning over the years, are both being covered here. Then language and thought as a concept and what different educationists and different theorists have to say on this are definitely in question. gender as a social construct. So the difference between gender and sex is looked at in this perspective. Also, gender will come under your concept of social sciences. And then it will also go under inclusive education. So gender as a social construct basically has multiple ways in which there will be a question. Individual differences. So it's based on a lot of things like why somebody at the age of 2 can do one particular thing when another person cannot. Those are the kind of questions that are being focused on over here. School-based assessment is what we call internal assessment. Though we talk about periodic assessments here, though we talk about portfolio, subject enrichment and your other kind of assessments are not generally questioned in the internal assessment part, but they do talk about your formative assessments, diagnostic tests, and the old pattern of comprehensive continuous evaluation. Name change now, it's become your periodic tests. So the same pattern continues with different names, and we learn about it one more time. So these topics together make 15 marks under CDP. Then we have a special 5-mark concept of inclusive education and CWSN. Inclusive education is something called Samaveshi Shiksha or Samaveshi Shikshan. So we learn about addressing the diverse needs of diverse learners from different backgrounds, including those who are the disadvantaged classes as well as the deprived sections of societies. We learn about addressing the needs of children with difficulties and impairments, the CWSN category. So we learn about the dyslexias and the dysgraphias and the dyscalculas and the dyspraxias, etc. Plus, there is always a question seen on addressing students with talented, creative, and specially abled learners. So wherever you will see Rachnatmakta, wherever you will see Pratibhashali Shabda, you will automatically start thinking in terms of active, experiential, progressive education and start eliminating other options. So as we progress in our journey for CTET 2025, we shall look at how we can also address these kind of questions when they come in the examination. The third part of the child development and pedagogy includes another 10 marks, which is learning and pedagogy. So how children think and learn and why children fail. So now when we are in this world of competency-based education, a very obvious question comes into our minds here, that how children think and learn is one way. So what are the different methods of learning and thinking, etc. At the same time, why children fail is something that requires the teacher to reflect. Then in a class of 40, why are so many students failing? In this concept, we need to touch upon our reflective strategies, our levels of metacognition. This is a very important topic. Plus, we have learning as a social activity and motivation. So when we do the theories, we will automatically come to social activities and motivation. And alternative conceptions and errors. So if you're teaching a particular concept, is there another concept which is coming out of it? Is there a concept which is leading to confusion in the minds of the students? These new things have now taken center stage. So we need to focus on that. Till your new CTET application form comes on the CTET official website, I would strongly suggest we follow this pattern. If the new application form comes up in the next 10-15 days or whenever, we will check if there is a difference in syllabus and we will apprise ourselves. Now, before I move to the main content of social sciences, I want to show you this. Whatever you take as language 1, it will have 30 questions. So, and you have 22 language options to choose from. However, in our Goodwill batch, we will only be covering English and Hindi as the languages. Now, whichever is your language 1, there will be 2 unseen comprehensions in that. One normally in the first language is a prose, and the second is a poem. Questions are meant to be inference based, grammar based, verbal ability or vocabulary based. What the passage is all about does not matter. How to solve the passage is an important thing, which we shall be doing. The kind of grammar that they ask is based completely on this passage. It's basic grammar. So if you notice on the group also, I have been putting in questions for you to answer. If you are able to answer those kind of questions, if you're able to understand those English tips that I keep sending, you will definitely score a perfect 30 in your language. It's not difficult at all. Now, suppose you have taken English as language 1 and you choose to take Hindi as language 2. Then you will have 2 passages in Hindi in language 2, and both those passages may be prose passages. The second passage need not be a poem. Language 1 normally has a prose and a poem, but language 2 generally has both prose passages. The kind of grammar questioned in both, the type of questions questioned in both the comprehension passages in both the languages are very, very similar. Very basic grammar. You can read the passage and infer your answers. However, the remaining 15 marks are the pedagogy or the teaching method of the language. So when you are doing pedagogy of language development, there are certain topics which we need to cover. They include learning and acquisition, principles of language learning, role of listening and speaking, function of language and how children use language, language as a tool, the critical perspective on the role of grammar in learning a language for communicating ideas verbally and in written form, challenges of teaching language in a diverse classroom, the difficulties faced in language learning, errors and disorders. Then we also talk about language skills, evaluating language comprehension and proficiency, speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So this, when we come to doing language comprehension, proficiency, I will cover this in detail. There are many easy ways to remember difficult things in language pedagogy as well as in CDP. So I will come to those while we are covering the live classes. Therefore, please make sure whenever there is a live class scheduled, try and attend it. Teaching learning materials. So we have textbooks, we have multimedia materials, we have multilingual resources of the classroom. With this now, they have also added something called Realia. 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 This is something they have now added. So Realia basically is connecting the concept to the student's daily life. And then you have remedial teaching. So when you've done a diagnosis of or a diagnostic test and you get a feedback where you realize where or which concepts the student has not learned or has not understood, you reteach them through a remedial teaching and make sure that the concepts are clear. That would be your pedagogy of language development. Now, the good thing for all those of us appearing at CTET 2025 is that in the pedagogy section, maximum questions are a translation. So, for example, your language one was English, and you did not understand the language of a particular question in the pedagogy of English, move to language one, second language Hindi, language one Hindi part, look for the pedagogy question. So, for example, in your paper, pedagogy may be at question number 16, but in language one Hindi, pedagogy may be at number 8. So, look in particular for the same matching question, and you can read the Hindi of it. The options and the answers will be the same. You can mark it back in English. Just in case you fumble in the exam and you don't know what to do with the language, these are little tips and tricks. You can always do that. We will keep covering that eventually once we start with the concepts. So when we speak about grammar, it's basic concepts of grammar, sentences and its parts, phrase, clause, types of sentences, figures of speech. It is easy to get, like, if you practice about 20, 25 passages and 15, 16 poems, I think it should be enough for you to score a complete 15 in the comprehension. And pedagogy needs a lot more practice. But practice is the key. And remaining active, just as we'd like to say that students are active learners, we are also active learners, and we need to be active. There are questions coming up on the group. There are quizzes coming up. There are tips and tricks coming up. We would like you to be visiting everything and remain active. I know at this point in time, many people feel, why are we starting so early? But early birds always win. Keep that in mind. Coming to our main subject, social science. Now, social science will have 60 questions to be attempted in 60 minutes. Now, when we talk about 60 questions, like I told you earlier, 40 questions will be subject-based, 20 questions will be social science pedagogy-based. So when we talk about the subject of social science in history, this being the older book syllabus, older book means till 2023 this book was in use. So the CTET till 2024 has given the syllabus. This year you may have the curriculum of the integrated book, chapters of which I have been sharing on the group. So when you look at history, there's when, where, and how. Now this you have in grade 6, 7, and 8, all three. Earliest societies, first farmers and herders, first cities, early states, new ideas, first empires. All of this, though looks like grade 6, it can be asked up to grade 12 level. And the competencies are also equally challenging. So remember to keep your eyes and ears wide open and to take down notes whenever we are doing a live class. Keep a notepad, especially for this Goodwill batch. Keep a pen always handy and take down notes when the live classes are on. Then when you come to contact with distant lands, political developments, culture and science, new kings and kingdoms, you come to medieval India, sultans of Delhi, architecture, creation of an empire, social change, regional cultures. So not only do we talk about the main empires, we've also gone about talking about the smaller kingdoms within our country. Coming to modern India, we've had establishment of the company power. So how the British come in and what they have done. Rural life and society, colonialism and tribal change, revolt of 1857, women caste and reform, challenging the caste system, national movement in India, and India after independence. So when you look at these topics, they look very, very simple, but the depth at which these topics are questioned Not just grade 6, 7, 8, the depth goes up to class 9, 10, 11, 12. Geography as a social study and as a science. Planet Earth in the social system, the globe, environment in its totality, natural and human, resources including air and water, human environment, settlement, transport and communication. Types of resources would be natural and human resources, and ultimately agriculture. They have started putting in questions on minerals as well. They don't ask industries, but they do ask questions on minerals. Social and political life, which we famously call political science or civics, you have diversity, government, local government, making a living, democracy, state government, understanding media, unpacking gender. So, like I told you earlier, we had gender, we had inclusivity, and now we have unpacking gender. We talk about the constitution, the parliamentary government, the role of the parliament and the judiciary both, social justice and the marginalized. One more time, we cover inclusion over here. Now, what we need to remember in this complete context, in the integrated book, economics has also been added. So there will be certain economic concepts which may not be directly mentioned here. But in the new textbook of grade 6, we already see economics being introduced. Therefore, we will be covering those basic concepts of economics as well, which would currently be connected with making a living and those kind of things. Understanding media, those kind of things would also be including now economics. When we come to the 20 questions of social science pedagogy, we need to keep in mind the concept and nature of social science. We need to keep in mind classroom processes, activities, discourses. How to develop a critical thinking attitude, inquiry-based learning, empirical evidence, which is actually your experiential learning. Problems of teaching social science or social studies. So over the years, we've seen this very famous question across papers, which has been the problem of teaching social science. It's supposed to be an interdisciplinary subject, but the textbooks are not the same. So that will soon be ending now. That problem will soon be ending because the integrated book in grade 6 has already come. So the interdisciplinary approach to teaching social sciences has begun. Then you need to very clearly understand the primary and secondary sources of social science. We need to understand project work as well as evaluation. So we did do school-based assessment earlier. We did talk about portfolios earlier. We now talk about project work and we talk about evaluation practices. I think this much was very clear to every one of you. There is one more thing I wish to cover with you, which is the mistakes that we should not make. Before that, I will deal with the textbook. So I have taken a screenshot of the textbooks of grade 6 to 8 here. History, geography, and civics. And all three books are visible here. However, grade 6, the integrated book is available on the NCERT app and on the NCERT website. You may download the book, or as I am already sharing chapters, I will continue to share them. I did mention earlier syllabus plus previous year's questions. So there are previous year's questions which are not very clearly visible to you. But yes, there are many questions which we shall be doing. So before I end, there are these certain things I would like to, of course, bring to your notice. Firstly, the mistakes that we should avoid making. We should have complete knowledge of the syllabus. So today when we've started only, we've seen that we've covered the entire syllabus that we had till the December 2024 exam. So this is the entire syllabus that is going to be tested for 150 marks. We should be following the new pattern. Now in the new exam pattern, like I told you, rote learning has been done away with. So what has come? What's come in is everything about competency-based learning. They want to test the application of concepts. So you need to be very, very clear on your concepts. Then in grammar, there is only basic grammar. It is not some high-level grammar that you need to sit and take grammar lessons and go to school all over again, start from grade 6 or something. It's basic grammar. If you just practice the grammar that I've shown you on the slide earlier, you will definitely do well. Do not omit anything from the pedagogy section. CDP 30 marks, social science 20 marks, language 1 15 marks, and language 2 15 marks, all of which is pedagogy, makes 90 marks. If you just get your entire pedagogy right, you will still pass. And social science will help you get your other add-on scores. So it's not difficult to pass. You need to start early. You need to clear the concepts which were not very clear when either you attempted earlier or you are planning to attempt for the first time. And please remember, rote learning has been done away with 100%. So please do not waste your time on rote learning. And assertion and reasoning kind of questions or statement questions have come. So there's statement 1, statement 2, and you have to prove whether these statements are true or false. And you have to reason for them. Those are the next important category of questions, which over the due course of time, we shall be covering. So I hope things are very clear till now. If yes, please mention in the chat. And I'd love to hear your opinions on today's session, so that I would love to welcome comments and feedback on today's session, so that when we start officially with our next session, mostly this Wednesday, I would love to know your position. And it's my earnest request, like I said, make a notebook or a notepad with a pen, which is always there, to take down notes in live classes. That's the only thing which is going to help you learn the content. And if there's anything that you need, you're always welcome to mention on the group, and I will definitely revert. There are a lot of practice things that I keep giving. Please do practice them. Many of those come from the previous year's questions, or they are similar to the upcoming questions. So please do practice. For all you know, you will just ace the CTET with a 150 score. It's not difficult. It just needs enough time for practice. Normally, one finishes the course but does not practice. This is going to help you finish the course in time and practice. So with this, the meeting is about to end, and I shall see you in my next live class. I will let you know on the group when is the next live class. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Goodbye. See you all.